I got a letter today urging us not to do what Mr. O'Farrell is urging because I ask that you do not take away the American dream of our ancestors and their history. I've thought about my ancestors and their history, and to me, celebrating Columbus Day does not honor their story and their struggle and their history. It insults it and it besmirches it. They came here to build something and not to destroy something. They came here to earn something and not to steal something. They came here to make life better for their children and not take away something from somebody else's children. And they did that. And I think the best way as an Italian American that I can honor their sacrifice and their heritage is to try to make the world better for my children and for our children. And part of that is trying to make a better world. And part of that is modeling for my son and teaching my son when to apologize, when to admit he's wrong, and when to try to make amends. And this gesture of replacing Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day is a very small step in apologizing and in making amends. I know it's hard for some to wrap their heads around why it's so important symbolically to replace Columbus Day. As a gay man, I was elated when the Supreme Court in June of 2015 legalized same-sex marriage across the country. And there was a particularly strong resonance that they did it at the end of June, because it was the end of June when there were the Stonewall riots and the gay liberation movement began, and that symbolism was important. The end of June was important because that's also the same month and same time of year when the Supreme Court, a generation earlier, had outlawed sodomy and upheld discrimination against my community. That symbolism is important. And the symbolism of Indigenous Peoples Day replacing Columbus Day is an apt symbol for a culture of genocide that came and replaced an entire people. It's been said by a few today that the act of replacing is somehow divisive. And I thought on that. I thought on that long and hard, and I thought on our history. And I was reminded that the people who marched on Selma were described as divisive. The people who organized the Great Boycotts were described as divisive. The attempts to allow LGBT men and women to serve in the military was described as divisive and disruptive. The young teenager who speaks up against the anti-Semitic uncle at the Thanksgiving table is often described as the one who's being divisive. And often the pursuit of justice feels uncomfortable or feels divisive to those who are not suffering from the lash of the injustice. It was said by one of the speakers today that it's unfair to remove Columbus Day. I want to think on that for a second. Let that word hang in the air for just a moment. How does describing taking away a holiday as unfair, how must that sound to the few surviving descendants of a people who were raped and massacred and almost eliminated from the face of this continent? How must that sound to the victims of one of the greatest injustices and unfairnesses that this country has ever seen? It's important that we acknowledge the context in which this decision is being made. It's a hard one. It genuinely pains me to disagree with Joe, who I love, who I feel genuine kinship with, one of my favorite people in the world. But in the context of what has happened in this country, in the context of where we are as a people, I think it is important to do what Mr. O'Farrell asks. So as the great-grandson of Italian immigrants who's very proud of their sacrifice and their story, And as someone who grew up on land that used to belong to the Nipmuc Indians in Massachusetts, and who represents land that used to belong to the Gabrielino Tongvas here in Los Angeles, and as someone who wants a better world for his son and that generation, I'm supporting Mr. O'Farrell's motion today.